My name is Dr. Tunji Funsho. I am the chairman of the National Polio Plus Committee of Rotary International. You're welcome to this very first virtual district conference. I'm delighted to be here. It has been a very, very challenging time, but I'm sure all of us, are changing our ways to suit the occasion. Fellow Rotarians, I'm glad to have the opportunity to address you regarding where we are with polio eradication in this COVID era. We all have been, in one way or the other, affected by COVID-19, particularly our polio program. Our polio eradication program, as you hear in a minute, have been put on hold essentially so that we could tackle this pandemic. We have continued unabated in transferring some of our assets for polio eradication in line with the advice of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative Group, which comprises of Rotary, UNICEF, WHO, the CDC, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and in recent times, the Gavi Foundation. Our efforts have not been different from what we have been doing, in the sense that we have still been approaching this in terms of advocacy work, creating awareness, raising funds, and having field activities. Our efforts for polio eradication pre-COVID-19 has yielded good results. We have gone from having thousands of cases of polio around the world to barely having about 150 cases during the last year. And so far, we're doing very well this year. We're just in the mid-50s as far as polio eradication is concerned. And that's purely because of the setback we had in Pakistan last year. So worldwide, we're doing pretty well. In Nigeria, we have seen cases of polio going down dramatically over the last 10 years to the point that in 2016, we saw our last case in August. And since that period of time, we have not seen a single case of polio in Nigeria. So we should give ourselves a round of applause for that. We've done really pretty well. We are at the verge of being certified a polio-free country by virtue of the fact that we have not seen polio for more than 3 years now. WHO is going to certify in the next few months Africa as a polio-free region, the only region that remains uncertified apart from the Southeast Asian region. So we want to ensure that that takes place. How do we do this in the short term? Is to make sure that we continue encouraging mothers and caregivers to take their children to primary healthcare centers and have routine immunization done. Now, let us look at the other aspect of our polio eradication efforts that has been of a lot of concern to us in recent times. And that has been the outbreak of vaccine-derived polio. Some of you may be aware that towards the end of last year, we had outbreak of vaccine-derived polio virus in a lot of states in this country and most of the parts of West and Central Africa. Vaccine-derived polio virus is the kind of paralysis that is caused when the virus remains in an environment that is unsanitary and circulates for a long time and undergoes mutation, and then goes from being protective for children for being destructive to children in terms of causing paralysis. This happens often when children are suboptimally immunized. So we want to ensure that routine immunization continues and we raise the level of routine immunization. That way, in the short term, much less children will be exposed to vaccine-derived. People have always asked, out of confusion, that we are seeing polio again, or the polio vaccine is giving children paralysis. No, it's not the polio virus that is giving paralysis. It's the polio virus in the vaccine that has undergone mutation in the environment, and because of low immunization in children, that causes paralysis. there's only 1 in 2 million chance of the vaccine itself, by direct contact with the child's intestinal tract, causing the paralysis. So the vaccine itself doesn't. We call that vaccine associated. It is very, very, very rare. But we can do a lot of things to control vaccine derived. One of the things we must do is, as I said earlier, increase the level of children who get routine immunization. Currently, the levels are not salutary in this country. It ranges from about 10% in some parts of the country to a very good level of about 90% in the other parts of the country. So we're averaging just about 40 to 50%. We need to get to about 85 to 90% across the country for us to be sure that most children are protected against the wild polio virus as well as the vaccine-derived virus. We've had spread of the vaccine-derived virus in the last 12 to 18 months all across the world, from China to Malaysia to the Philippines to most of West Africa and Central Africa, Nigeria inclusive. And the way to put a lid on that at the end of the day is to ensure that we improve the routine immunization, and also to ensure that we find a way of ensuring that we produce a vaccine that will not undergo this mutation that makes it cause disease. So now what we are doing is to produce a new vaccine that will ensure that it is stable enough not to cause paralysis, even in an environment where children are not optimally immunized. We call it the novel OPV, the novel oral polio vaccine. It has undergone, animal trials, it has undergone, human trials at a small scale. Our next phase of that is to use it in an outbreak setting where we can immunize large numbers of people under control. We're waiting for WHO temporary certification so that we can do that. And of course, as you all know, we cannot do it in the era of COVID-19 because we cannot go house to house to immunize children. But that's one of the weapons we're going to use to ensure that we put a lid on the circulation of vaccine-derived poliovirus. We're looking forward to certification. As I mentioned earlier, we're actually going to celebrate it on the 20th of June in a very big way when the pandemic came around. So we hope that in the next couple of months, there will be some virtual ceremony by WHO to bring certification of Africa as a polio-free region, and by inference, Nigeria certified as a polio-free country. So in the COVID era, we have leveraged all the resources and structures we are using for polio eradication to ensure that we keep COVID-19 at bay, which is pausing our intervention for polio and transferring it to COVID-19, pausing our house-to-house immunization, and of course, pausing outbreak response. What is the polio status worldwide in terms of the countries that have been in recent times endemic? That has been Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. We all have seen and heard Nigeria has not seen any case of polio since August 2016. So we are on the verge of being certified a polio-free country. But we still have Pakistan and Afghanistan. Pakistan in particular has been having a lot of cases in comparison to previous years of polio in recent years, but it is nowhere near the large numbers we used to have in the last decades. So coming from a situation where 125 countries in the world are polio infected with 350,000 cases around the world, we'll come to a point now where there's just 2 countries, Afghanistan and Pakistan, that is still circulating the wild polio virus. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, circulating vaccine-derived still poses a problem. We have done very well in Nigeria, and that is due to the efforts of our partners, but in particular, the efforts of you Rotarians, who have continuously been advocating, creating awareness, raising funds for the purpose, and being in person in the field to participate in immunization, and at the same time, monitoring what our volunteers are doing in the field and also what our paid workers are doing in the field. But for this pandemic, we had actually been planning a celebration for the end of June because we are assured that we have met all the criteria to be certified a polio-free country. So, how do we tackle right now the nuisance of vaccine-derived? There are two things we have to do and we continue to do, which is ensuring routine immunization continues. The presence of COVID-19 should not stop that because this takes place at known and recognized primary healthcare centers. So it is important for us to encourage mothers in all our environments to continue taking their children to primary healthcare centers so that that precious drop for their children for polio is administered. The other thing we have been doing as a partnership of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative is to find a vaccine that is less likely going to mutate, even in environments where children are suboptimally immunized and cause infection. So we are in the process of going to human trials of what we call the novel oral polio vaccine 2. What is this vaccine? It's a vaccine that is specifically developed to ensure that it is stable even in environments where children are suboptimally immunized. And that is what we intend to start using when we get an outbreak, that we use to ensure that we curb the outbreak and ensure that children are immunized and do not have the danger of the vaccine, no matter how long it circulates, mutating and causing infection. So we are moving to certification celebrations until COVID came about. We're still going to have our certification. We expect that in the next couple of months, WHO is going to, through virtual communication, certify Africa a polio-free continent by virtue of Nigeria exiting the number of countries that have been polio endemic. And that's a cause for celebration. If we cannot celebrate in person, we'll celebrate virtually. You'll all be duly informed when that time comes. Now, in the COVID-19 area, what have we been doing? We have brought the structure that we provided to eradicate polio to the assistance of the COVID-19 eradication or stoppage era. One is to continue using our structure for surveillance to make sure that wherever COVID-19 is, we pick it up. We're also using the same structure and personnel in increased numbers to trace contacts so that they don't further go and infect other people. But what are we doing with regard to polio itself? Because of the inherent risks, we have stopped house-to-house immunization. We have paused that to ensure that we don't increase transmission of COVID-19. All the outbreak responses that we'll have had in cases of outbreak response to vaccine-derived polio has also been put under suspension so that we can continue leveraging the resources for polio eradication to support the control of this pandemic. So now, in this COVID era, what have we been doing? Well, most of you already are aware, and you are doing your bit in your different ways. We have been serving our poor communities with food palliatives. From the NNPPC end, that is Nigerian National Polio Plus Committee end, we have been giving palliatives, of non-perishable foods in Lagos. We did 1,000 in Lagos. We've done in Oyo State. We've done in Ogun State. We've done in Kano State. And we're moving to areas like Jos, and Gombe very soon. And we're expecting that, in Akwa Ibom, we're going to have Rotarians there, in partnership with us, doing the same thing. So we are extending the palliative efforts across the country. NNPPC has led the way, and a lot of districts and clubs, are doing the same. Is, to help people who are not able to go out to work and earn a living with food palliatives. And of course, these food palliatives also go to old people, pensioners, widows. The other thing, of course, we're doing is promoting the use of face masks. You see, these face masks are a very vital tool in preventing infection. Because if we do not protect other people, we cannot encourage other people to protect us. We all know that there are many people who have COVID-19 who don't show any symptoms. You don't know whether you're one of those people. So one of the ways you can do your bit is to wear a mask. So if you have the virus, you don't spread it to other people. And you see, if everybody else does the same thing, then the chances of infection going from person to person is limited. So the advantage of these masks is that when you put the mask on, very simply, like so, it ensures that droplets, even if you have the infection, the droplets that may be containing the virus does not come out in quantities that will infect somebody else. So if all of us wear face masks, we are protecting one another. I know it is not a very convenient thing. I have worn it several times. But you see, like most drugs, they may not be very palatable. I was talking about quinine yesterday on a program. Quinine is a very bitter drug, but that was the only drug we had for malaria for a long time. But we all took it in order to be well. The mask is similar. We are not used to it. It is not convenient. It is not comfortable, but it is safe. As a physician who has been in the operating theater wearing masks for many, many, many years, for hours on end standing to do major surgery, I have not heard or experienced just one case of a doctor collapsing in the theater because the masks makes them dizzy. If you can breathe through your mask, as you are hearing me, it means air is coming out of my lungs into the atmosphere. Therefore, the chances of you getting dizzy because anything is accumulating is just a figment of people's imagination. Do not believe what people are saying about the face mask leading to dizziness and stuff like that. If you can breathe, if people can even hear you with a face mask on, it means there's air coming out and going in. If air is not coming out of your lungs, people cannot hear you speak. It is the air from your lungs that the vocal cords vibrate against to give you sound. So if sound is coming out of your mouth, it means air is coming out. So it's a fallacy to say that bad air accumulates around you and then you get dizzy because of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a stimulant for respiration. Maybe people are confusing it with carbon monoxide. But carbon dioxide is the gas that makes you want to breathe by force. If I dip your head in water, what forces you to want to inhale is because of buildup of carbon dioxide in your lungs. Automatically, the brain will make the muscle responsible for respiration to contract so that you want to breathe out. So don't fall for this propaganda that a mask, will be injurious to you. It protects other people against you and it protects you against other people. So that's part of what we're doing. But very importantly, again related to masks, is for us to communicate with the public in a language they will understand. That wearing a mask is for their own good. We need a buy-in. Any public health intervention requires buy-in from the public. So we need to communicate with people and make them appreciate why they are being asked to do this. That is the purpose of good communication. We've been doing flyers, and I've seen other clubs and districts doing flyers, advocating the need to use masks, the need to wash your hands, the need to stay at home, and I'm sure some of you have seen some of the ones we've produced. We also produce virtual billboards. Again, advocating for some of these basic things. Staying at home if you don't have to go out, washing your hands, using sanitizers, and ensuring that, you wear your face masks all the time. We are now in the process, of putting up solid billboards. In association with the Lagos State government's outdoor advertising agency, you should be seeing our billboards around Lagos, and we're trying to move into other parts of the country so that people moving around will get the message, because it's important for people to understand why they're being asked to do what they're doing. And finally, I have been advocating for COVID control on most of my TV programs in recent times. Some of you may have seen me on those programs. And all of us can do that. All Rotarians at the club level and at district level can contribute in this way that I've mentioned just now. So, next is what we're going to do in terms of leveraging our collective efforts in resuming our routine immunization properly, and also being able to come to a good continuum from when the pandemic for COVID-19 subsides, and we need to catch up with lost time as far as the polio eradication effort is concerned. So Rotarians should bear in mind that we still have to keep polio at 0 in Nigeria. So generally, I want you to bear this image in mind, that we need to keep polio at 0, but at the same time, for now, make sure that routine immunization continues for our children, particularly those below the age of 5, but more so those below the age of 2, because children are born every day. Also propagate the need for washing of hands and using hand sanitizers and wearing face masks. And more importantly, if you don't have any business outside, just stay home. That is the best way to keep this virus under control, because the virus has no legs. If we don't move it around, it will not move anywhere else. The same thing, it has no hands. If we don't take infected materials from wherever they may be and put it on our noses, our eyes, or our mouths, we will not get infected. Polio eradication continues on course, but we need to finish the job of supporting, using our infrastructure, the pandemic, control, so that at the end of the day, we can continue with our work to keep polio at 0 in Nigeria. Thank you for listening. My name is Dr. Tunji Funsho. I am the chairman of the National Polio Plus Committee of Rotary International.